Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being on time. We will get started right away. We just want to mention something up front. So firstly, Wasim is going to make sure everyone is muted. So if you're not muted at the moment, we just want to make the experience great for everyone. So if you're not muted, he will mute you. Please don't unmute yourself until the end, when we possibly might open the line for questions. I just want to start off by saying that we have a lot of content to cover this evening, right? It might be a lot to take in. Please don't try and follow on your LinkedIn profile. We're going to send this, I'm going to send you the presentation as well as the recording. So what's best is just try and absorb everything and try and follow along, because we don't want to lose you and then, we get to a step where you're completely lost. So you can always go back and change your LinkedIn profile afterwards as well. In terms of questions, you're welcome to use the chat to either make comments or do questions, but Wasim will handle the questions and he will either bring it in at the start, or he will handle questions at the end. Okay, Wasim, over to you before I get started.
Thank you so much, Rahima. Welcome to everyone. I'm actually in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, so it's a worldwide webinar that we have. Obviously, no need to introduce Rahima. Most of you guys know her. Rahima has been to the LinkedIn head office in San Francisco. That photo that you actually see is her at the LinkedIn office. She's then put together a wonderful presentation going through the technicalities of optimizing a LinkedIn page or profile. Let me use the correct terminology, a profile. So like Rahima mentioned, I'll be dealing with the questions. Do pop your questions into the chat section. I'll record them and then we'll either bring them in when it is relevant throughout the presentation, or I'll bring it up at the back end of the presentation. We hope you enjoyed.
Thanks. I'm very excited. There are quite a few countries represented in this call today. I mean, I'm sitting in South Africa, Wasim is sitting in Saudi. We've got this call hosted from Mozilla in San Francisco in the States, and there's a couple of people joining from places like Dubai. So yeah, very exciting. I've got my LinkedIn water here that I got from LinkedIn in Silicon Valley, and I was going to drink it on this call, but I don't know if it's still drinkable, and I don't want to die in front of you on the call. That would be very traumatic for everybody. So I'm rather going to drink my other water, but I've got it here next to me for inspiration. But yeah, what I'm going to share with you today, I'm very excited because yes, I was at LinkedIn, but a lot of this information was what I learned afterwards from the connections that I made there, as well as just researching on my own. And I hope that you're going to find it valuable. And if you're listening on the recording, I got quite a few messages today frantically asking me if the session is going to be recorded and whether they'll have access to it. So yes, we will be sending it to everyone as soon as possible, possibly either later this evening or tomorrow. I just want to check before I continue. Wasim, are we recording? I cannot see it on my screen. We are. I can't hear you. Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so let's get right into it. What are we going to cover today? What is the session objectives? We want to learn how to build a LinkedIn profile that showcases you, your skills, your passions, and your accomplishments in the best way possible. I want to learn how to use LinkedIn to build your professional brand credibility. And I want to teach you how to differentiate yourself from others in the same industry and in a similar role, because that's what's really going to give you the edge. We're also going to optimize what's under the hood in LinkedIn's algorithm so that we can rank higher in search results. You want to get found, right? And to get found, we need to know how to play the game, and we're going to play the game according to LinkedIn's own algorithm. And then we've got some tips for job seekers, because I know that's why a lot of you are here. You know, we're all looking for that next better job or our dream job. And with, you know, the world in havoc, with COVID-19, quite a lot of people have been thrown curveballs that they did not expect. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to have this session, just to see how I can assist by just sharing a bit of information. Right, so what is a brand, you might ask? According to Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO and founder of Amazon, if you didn't know that, is a brand is what others say about you when you are not in the room. So another word for that might be your reputation. Your reputation precedes you, as you know. The brand, your professional brand really is the key to all new opportunities. But why LinkedIn? I mean, why not something else? Well, LinkedIn has over 700 million members. It is by far the biggest place to network with so many professionals in one place. It is really, really powerful. I mean, I have gotten job offers from even overseas job offers based on my LinkedIn profile alone, like without an interview or anything like that. Up to now, I haven't accepted any of them because it just didn't suit me for one reason or other. But that is just the power of the platform, and we're going to learn how to use that. So why LinkedIn? It really brings your career story to life by telling your professional story in a very unique way. It's an extremely efficient recruitment tool for recruiters, and that is why we want to take advantage of it. You want to be found by those recruiters. It allows you to attract new business contacts. So even if you are not job searching, or even if you are not looking for a job and you have a business, for example, you're a business owner, it can help attract new business contacts and clients as well. It gives you recognition for the skills that you have, which gives you more credibility, which in turn can drive referrals. And referrals is always a good thing, whether you're professional or a business. So you might ask, okay, well, I don't actually know what my brand is. What is it? I don't have a brand. Now, you don't have to be an influencer or anyone famous, for lack of a better word, to have a brand. Everyone has a brand. Now, just to help you define your brand a bit, if you have no idea what your brand is, you can ask people that you work with, for example, for help. Ask them questions like, how would you define the work that I do? Or describe the experience I create for you. And what can you count on me for? And the answers to these questions can help you to give you a vision of yourself the way other people see you. So sometimes we have a very blurred way of the way we see ourselves, but other people can tell us how they actually see us. And remember to ask a diverse group of people, because you really want to get a well-rounded opinion of yourself, for the lack of a better word, opinion. So just some quick tips before we get started on the 10 steps. Always write in the first person. I know that this is hard, and this is going to be very hard for a lot of people because, you know, it's so much easier to write in the third person. I'm like that as well. You know, if somebody, even if you're writing something about yourself, it's much easier to write it in third person, because then it's as if somebody else is saying these things about you. You know, it's not me blowing my own horn. It's somebody else saying that I'm cool. It's not me saying I'm awesome, because that might seem like, oh, like, are you arrogant or something? But it's not arrogance. It's actually you telling your own story. And it's more authentic when it comes from you. So write it in the first person as if it comes from you, because actually it does come from you. Then stick to short, concise paragraphs throughout your profile, and only use bullet points to emphasize key skills, accomplishments, and results. So your entire profile should not be a list of bullet points. You are in full control of your visibility and privacy settings. There's so many things that you can control who sees it. Even your profile picture, you can control it. Only your first degree connections see it, if anybody on the internet can see it, or anything that you want. Right? In the preparation report that I sent you, you would have also been given a step on how to change your visibility and privacy settings for what we're going to do now. So you don't want your network to be notified when you're busy making changes. So just remember to turn that back on once you're done. Okay, then users with 100% complete profiles are 40 times more likely to receive opportunities through LinkedIn. Now, how do you know whether your profile is 100% complete? You will know because LinkedIn will tell you. Your profile will be labeled as an all-star profile, as you can see there on your dashboard, and your dashboard will be shown to you when you click on your own profile. It'll be right in front of you. If it doesn't say all-star, it will give you an indication of the percentage completeness of your profile. So it will say 60% complete, 80% complete, and it will also tell you where if there's any gaps where you need to insert that information. So that is just for completeness. That doesn't indicate optimization. But the first step would be to make sure that your profile is 100% complete so that you can actually be found. The way the algorithm works is that they actually penalize you by not showing you. I'm not saying it's always going to be like this, but they may not show you in searches if your profile is not complete. Even if somebody searches for you by name, in which case you think like you should be the first one in search results. But they may not show you because like LinkedIn wants their users to get value. And they don't see showing somebody with a 60% complete profile as showing a user value. Because remember, they want people to spend as much time on the profile or on the platform as possible. And for that, they want to, they really want to drive value. Right, so let's get straight into it then. We've got a 10-step process and we've got some really nice bonus tips for you as well. The first one is your profile picture. Now, users with a profile picture have 21 times more profile views, and they have 9 times more connection requests than users without. Now, a lot of the things I'm going to cover with you this evening are not deal breakers. They're not really going to hurt you if you don't get it completely right or completely optimized, but it'll benefit you if you do get it right. This one is definitely a deal breaker. If you do not have a profile picture, or if your profile picture is not relevant, then it will hurt you. So let's get you started on showing you what a good profile picture is. So what is a good profile picture? It doesn't have to be professionally shot, but it does help. Getting a profile picture taken, yes, it can be expensive, but it is a very good return on investment. You're always going to be able to use that photo. You're going to use it for years to come, and you can use it everywhere. You're not just going to use it on LinkedIn. You're going to use it possibly in your CV. You're going to use it at other professional places. You might use it on your website if you have one, in bios, in talks. This particular profile picture that I'm using, I use it everywhere. It also kind of, when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere professionally, including like when I do talks or when I'm featured somewhere and they ask for a bio. This is the picture that I send. It just helps to also build that, that brand, because somebody sees the same photo of you all the time, they start associating you with that brand. So what are the qualities of a good profile picture? It must be high quality, must have good lighting. Good lighting is the most important one, and preferably a neutral background. If you don't have a, a flat color background, you can also add a vignette or to kind of just blur out the background, because you don't want your background to be busy. Please, no kids, pets, or family. I know they are cute. I know you love them, but maybe save that for Facebook and not on your LinkedIn profile picture. Most definitely no cropping out of other people. You might think nobody can see, but people can see when you have cropped someone else out. And choose something that represents you. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, it's your profile picture. Of course, it's going to be you. It might not be. Because what I mean by that is that if you have, for example, if you have an office job or you're seeing clients and you dress in a certain way, you dress like a very business-like in your job, then maybe you want to have your profile picture in a suit, for example, because that's the way you want to be seen. If it's a more like, casual profession, you might be more casual, but make sure it still looks professional. If you have, if you are, say, for example, a personal trainer, it would make no sense for you to pitch up in a suit on your profile picture, because really that does not speak to your profession. So you can still have it looking professional and still let it speak to that persona that you are trying to build professionally. So maybe you want to be in gym clothes. In gym clothes doesn't mean that it's like has to be any certain way. It can still look professional. And then you can also level up by adding a header image that represents either your industry or your passion or your interest. I've seen some great header images. People sometimes have a background of, and the header image is the image that goes on the right at the top of your profile. It doesn't have to be customized, but if it is, it just kind of differentiates you from somebody else as well. So if you, for example, are in renewable energy, you might want to have a picture of a wind farm, for example. Or if you're a speaker, you might want to have a picture of yourself in front of a very large audience. Just make sure your sizing is right if you're going to use it as your header image. Now, before we move on to off this point, I want to introduce a very special offer that I have for people on this call, and this includes people listening to the recording. Unfortunately, it is only going to be available to those in Cape Town. And that's just because of the nature of the service. But there's somebody on this call, her name is Renata, and she's an amazing photographer. And she has a very special offer that if you are in Cape Town, she will do 4 professional shots of you for 250 Rand. You can come to her house in Durbanville, or she is happy to come out to you. She will observe all the COVID protocols, masks, she will be fully sanitized, and she'll observe the social distancing. But she will have a professional setup there, and she will edit the photos for you and send it to you in high res. And you can do different shots, you can do up to 4 photos. So I will link that service in the, I will give her details to you in the follow-up email. But be sure to take advantage of that offer. I'm telling you, it is a great offer. 250 Rand for 4 photos, professionally shot, is not something that you'll get anywhere. And she does amazing work. I can vouch for that.
So just a question,
yes.
Would you be able to use, let's say, the graduation photo that you have that's done professionally? Is that applicable?
Thank you for asking that question, Wasim. So that's a graduation photo satisfies all 3 of my requirements in terms of high quality, it's good lighting, it's a neutral background, and you're most likely to look amazing because, I mean, you're graduating. But does it speak to what you're trying to convey in terms of where you are in life at the moment. So yes, if you've graduated in the last 2 years or so, I'd say yes, use the graduation photo, because you might want to convey the message that, you know, you're a professional and that you've graduated. But if you have a couple of years of experience, especially the way people really just, employers are chasing experience. And if you have, say, 5 years experience, but you have a graduation photo on your LinkedIn profile, there's a very big disconnect in terms of what you're trying to convey and what your profile shows. So I would suggest that if you have any more than, say, 2 or 3 years of experience, that you do not use your graduation photo as your profile picture.
Thanks,
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Great. Great. Okay, so let's move on to the next step, which is adding your location. So if you add your location, members who have location added have 19 times more profile views than those without, and you are also 23 times more likely to be found by your professional community. Now, you might notice a little search icon at the bottom of the slide, which was not there in step 1. And where I have the search icon is to indicate that LinkedIn prioritizes this metric in searches. There's 5 of these that LinkedIn prioritizes. 4 of them is in this presentation, and the 5th one is your name, which I'm not going to cover. I mean, it's your name. Just make sure it's spelled correctly, that it's sentence case, it's capitalized, the first letter, all of those nice things. But yeah, just have a look at the ones with the search icon and pay special attention to those. Why is this important? Many recruiters actually search by location, and they're not going to find you even if you are in the location that they're searching, if you don't actually have the location in your profile. Okay, if you are in the services industry, you definitely want to have this, because people looking for services will also search by location. It also shows people what kind of connection they can have with you. So if you're in the same city, maybe you're open to physical meetings, lunch meetups, obviously not in the COVID era, but assuming this is normal times, you might want to have that kind of relationship. Or maybe it's a city that you don't live in, but you go to quite often, and maybe you can have meetups at conferences. Or if it's a place you're never likely to go to, it's fine to have an online-only relationship. But it just gives people an indication that there's no guesswork in terms of, like, you know, what kind of connection are we going to have? And then just another tip on this, if you are relocating or you want to work in another city than the one in which you're living at the moment, you can actually change your location to the city that you're relocating to, or the city that you want to work in. So this is not lying to anybody. It's not cheating the algorithm. LinkedIn themselves actually indicates that you can do this, because this is not your address. They're not asking for your address. They're asking for your professional location. So if I'm staying in Cape Town, but I actually want to work in Joburg, I can change my location to Joburg. Or if I'm going to move to Joburg, I can change it. Because it gives people, it also gives you an opportunity, besides, you know, being found for services or jobs in that area, it gives people the opportunity to connect with you before you get there. So when you get there, you might already have connections that can either show you around, or they can give you the lay of the land, or just, you know, meet up for coffee or anything like that. It also opens you up to for example, like mentorship opportunities. Although mentorship doesn't have to be in the same city, it is very difficult to have a mentorship relationship with somebody in another city, unless you're really, really good at doing remote meetings. So just keep that in mind if you are looking to work in a different place. Okay, then step 3 is adding your industry. Now, people with the industry added have 9 times more profile views, and more than 300,000 people search by industry on LinkedIn every single week. That is a lot of searches, and you want to get a piece of that pie if you actually want to be found. So you need to make sure that your industry is in there. It's actually not displayed on your profile. So if somebody looks at your profile, they can't see what industry you're in, but it's a very important piece of back-end data. It's one of those things that's under the hood, but it's quite important. As you can see, there's a search icon there as well. So it's prioritized in terms of search. Your industry should be as closely matched to your job as possible. And these industries are set on LinkedIn. You can't make up your own industry and add it. It is set, and but there's loads. I'm not sure how many there are, but I think there's over 100 industries that you can choose from. If your exact industry is not there, then choose one that's very closely related. And it should be your current industry. And why I mention that is that sometimes when we change jobs, we actually change industries. I mean, when I moved from the last company I was working at, so I'm an engineer, and I was working in at a utility. I'm not going to mention now which utility, I'll mention it later. And then 4 years ago, I moved into management consulting. So I'm still an engineer. I'm still using similar skills, but I'm in a very different industry. And initially, I didn't think to change it. And only about a year later, I changed it. And I was like, oh my goodness, my industry is wrong. Your industry also, it will show relevant, if you set it correctly, it will show more relevant content to you. Things you might learn, or the connections you might want to make that's in a very similar industry to you, or people that you might want to follow on LinkedIn. Right, so we've done 3 steps at the moment. We're going to move on to to step 4. But before I move on to step 4, I just want to mention that the 3 metrics we've covered thus far has got to do with optimizing your reach, right? So it's setting things so that it just, it has an effect on the relevance, on people to find you. And now we're going into something a little bit different.
So I'll just come in just over there, just to give a bit of clarity on the statement that Rahima made. So how the algorithm, and I'm sure you've heard the word many a time thrown around, algorithms, like what is an algorithm? So basically an algorithm, and an algorithm is different dependent on the platform, influences the way content is indexed and categorized. So what does indexed and categorized mean? Indexed and categorized would mean that you would input information. So I put a search term, let's say, into Google, and that search term could be something like jobs in Cape Town. What Google would do is they would index and categorize the content which is relevant to the search term. So they would say jobs, keyword, Cape Town, keywords, location, and jobs. So matching a skill set with a location, and then it would give you the relevant jobs that's in Cape Town. So what LinkedIn does is all platforms, and the 3 steps that Rahima then highlighted is how your content or information that you've inserted into LinkedIn is optimized so that when someone is trying to connect with you, and that could be, let's say, a person in industry or a recruiter, the information will be given to them as best suits, let's say, their search. So if your content or let's say information isn't optimized, it makes it harder for the person to search for you or the recruiter to search for you.
Thanks, Wasim, for that additional insight. Okay, step 4. This is where you're going to have to do some work, right? And if you did your homework, this would not be very hard for you. So step 4 is to write an attention-grabbing headline. Just a heads up, there's a little search thing at the bottom, so you know what that means by now. Just to show you what the headline is, you can see Tariq's headline here on the top, on the right. So it's just to the right of your profile picture, it's a short one-liner below your name. Now this shows up alongside your photo every time you publish content. So it's almost like a shadow, a little tail that follows you everywhere around LinkedIn. And it's very, very important. It does default to your most recent job title if it's not customized. And a lot of people do not customize it. And I would recommend that you do customize it. And we're going to go into why. Sorry. Firstly, it's an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself right up front. So right up front, before people even have any kind of connection with you, every time you put a comment or post content, they will see that headline. It can explain what you do. It must be compelling, customized, and representative of you. You must use industry-specific keywords, or not you must, but you should. And it can show your passion and value as well. If you're not sure where to begin, we're going to start with the big three. So we're going to start with the industry keywords, which is what you did for homework, your role, and then your unique skills and passions. And before I go on, I just want to mention why we're using industry keywords and why I'm going to harp on this industry keyword thing throughout this presentation. So when a recruiter is working through a pile of CVs, you know, traditionally you have a pile this high of CVs and they're working through it, and you know that, okay, you need to stand out. And how do you do that in your CV? There's a couple of ways you do that in your CV, which I'm not going to go into now. But you need to grab the attention of a human being in that sense. Online, the first obstacle that you need to be able to cross is one of a machine. It's an algorithm. So the machine will filter what the user is inputting first, and only after that point will you get to an actual human being, which is why these keywords are very important, because the keywords is going to be what the engine is going to crawl and search for. And when it picks it up in your profile, that's when it's going to show up. So let's go to the big three. How does that actually look? So I've got some examples here of 3 positions. The first one is someone that's a pilot at the SAA. So if you're a pilot at SAA, you could say pilot at SAA in your headline. And that's what it's going to default to. But other pilots at other airline companies are also going to say pilot. So how do you differentiate yourself? If somebody's looking for a pilot, how do you stand out as a pilot amongst pilots? You could say something like, connecting Africa from the cockpit of my Boeing 757. So how does that fit in with the big three? It's got industry keywords. So cockpit is both an industry keyword as well as a role. There's only one role that sits in the cockpit, right? And that's a pilot. Boeing 757 is an industry keyword. It's also a very unique skill because not every pilot can fly a Boeing 757. It's a very specialized skill that you can highlight right up front before somebody even goes into your profile. Connecting Africa also shows a role, right? You're showing that you are actually flying internationally and not just within the same country. Otherwise, you wouldn't be connecting Africa. So yes, it's a short thing, and the big three are 3 actual things that you need to fit into like 100 characters. The maximum is 120 characters, but it can be done. The second one in that table is one of the roles that I had before, and there you can see which utility I was referring to earlier. I'm not there anymore. Do not hate me, please. The people that work at Eskom are actually very nice people. But it was a network optimization engineer at Eskom. So saying network optimization engineer, if you're not at Eskom or another utility, you might have no idea what that actually means. Like, what does it actually mean? So instead of saying that, you might say engineering the security of supply of Eskom's power system. Now, how does that fit in with the big three? It's got loads of industry keywords. Engineering is an industry keyword. So is security of supply. So is ESCOM, and so is power systems. I mean, that short sentence is basically just a whole bunch of industry keywords, which a search engine can pick up. It speaks to your role. So engineering is both a unique skill, a role, and an industry keyword. I could also say engineering the security of supply of South Africa's power system, but you want to put ESCOM in there because ESCOM is another industry keyword. So you can like optimize the real estate that you have because it's a very small piece of real estate. The third one is my current role, which is engagement manager at Pegasus. Now, if you're not in management consulting, you will have no idea what an engagement manager is. In fact, people often think it's something completely different. Like, I mean, Wasim, who's my moderator, and we've been friends for well over 10 years. When I got promoted from consultant and he saw this on LinkedIn, he was like, "You're going to social media now? Like, what are you doing?" And he knows what industry I'm in and he knows exactly what job I was doing. So imagine somebody that doesn't know. Because sometimes a job might have a specific title that's very specific to either that company or that industry. So I want to differentiate myself and I want people to know what I actually do. So I have my headline as connecting marginalized communities to opportunity. Now you might think, well, what does that have to do with what you do at work? I also have speaker and best-selling author. So speaker and best-selling author, those are roles. They're also passions and they're also unique skills. So it might not have to do with my primary industry, but it's actually things that I want to be found for. And getting back to the first part of it, connecting marginalized communities to opportunity, I was looking for something that defines me in terms of more than just my job, because I don't believe that my job defines me. I'm more than just that. In fact, I'm a lot more than just that because I have a lot of passions outside of work. And I wanted something that is all-encompassing, if that was even possible. So what I do at work is that we consult in transport for the public sector. So we work on transport projects that are sustainable and that help very marginalized communities. So people that do not have money to use traditional transport, they do not have cars, they walk very long distances to work, like as in kilometers, 8, 10 kilometers each way to work. And how do you change their life? Can you change their life by giving them a bicycle, for example, connecting them to being able to get to a job, which is an opportunity? Or can you make it safer for them to do that commute, which is a walk? What can you do? So that's what I do at work, which is connecting marginalized communities to opportunity. I also run coding programs for children, which is connecting marginalized communities to opportunity. I also currently run an NPO, which I just started this year. We connect corporates to communities where they can implement CSR programs or CSI programs as well. That is connecting marginalized communities to opportunity. So although that one is not fraught with industry keywords of my private industry, it's actually the brand and the persona that I'm trying to create for myself. So I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to want to make sure that the rest of my profile speaks to that as well. So that is step 4, writing an attention-grabbing headline. So I want you to go, not now after this, or in the days that follow, and work on something that you think might be your attention-grabbing headline.
So just to add what Rahima said over there, because she spoke about the algorithm creating a persona, she also is creating a differentiator by adding that little bit at the end, speaker and best-selling author. She got through the machine, then the recruiter saw a LinkedIn profile, and then saw, oh, she has the capacity and she adds a bit extra. So adding that little, let's say two words or 3 words at the 4 words at the end of it there, differentiates her from the pack.
Thanks, Wasim. Going on to step 5. Step 5 is drafting a compelling summary. Now, this is your about section on LinkedIn. Also something that a lot of people don't put much effort into customizing. Because in About Us, sometimes, you think of an about section on a website. It's not, it's like a short thing. It's not something that people very often give attention to. But in LinkedIn, it is extremely important. There's the search icon at the bottom again, which you know what that means. So let's go into it. Your about is your elevator pitch. Now, I'm sure everybody knows what an elevator pitch is. If you're in the elevator, you've got a minute maybe to impress either an investor, your CEO, or somebody else that you want to give either your business idea or, giving, in this case, selling yourself. So now you're not selling an idea, you're selling yourself. More than 40 words help you get found more easily. So it mustn't be too short, but not too long either. You want a few short paragraphs. It's also the #1 thing recruiters look at when viewing your profile. Now, yeah, you might think it's all about your work experience, but actually it isn't. Remember that machine we had to get through first? So now we got through the machine. And now you showed up in the search and somebody clicks on you, they look at your about. It's a recruiter, like the hundreds of CVs, they're looking at hundreds of profiles. They're not going to get to your work experience if they don't get past this about. So if you don't hook them in here, you're going to lose them and you are going to miss the opportunity to let them see how amazing you are and what a good job you're actually doing. So you've got to make this really, really great. This is your time to shine. So focus on your career accomplishments, your aspirations, things you do really well and that come really easy to you, and show your passion and value. It must be concise. It speaks to your mission, your motivation, your key skills, and your experience. It's also written in the first person, just like everything else. It should contain keywords relevant to the industry or the work that you do. And it can include passions outside of work as well. Because remember, this is what makes you you. It's not just about your work. It's what makes you as a person. So if you don't know where to start, got some tips for you as well. Begin with introducing who you are, what you do, why your work matters, so what gap are you filling, and your contribution or impact that you want to have. Now, how does that look in terms of what you're actually going to put down? So in terms of who you are, you might put something like, I'm an inspiring leader who evens the playing field for underserved communities. Or I'm a graphic designer that connects people to images in order to communicate a compelling message. What you do is very straightforward. Make it very much to the point. If you're a marketing professional, for example, you might say, I provide small businesses with end-to-end marketing and PR support. Or I design power lines for high voltage distribution systems, if you are a line designer. Why your work matters. So what gap are you filling, as I said? Again, if you're the marketing professional, you might want to say something like, I free up the time of small business owners to focus on sales and serving customers. Or I help people to build the home of your dreams, the home of their dreams without hassle and stress, if you're a building contractor, for example. And then what contribution or impact you want to have. Maybe it's providing economic opportunity for everyone or improving the quality of life of clients by making them fitter and stronger, going back to our personal trainer friend again. And these things do not have to be laid out in this order, and you can also answer more than one of them at the same time. It doesn't have to be as compartmentalized, but just make sure that you're bringing you front and center in your summary. This is about you. This is not about what your company does. I'm talking about the company that you work for. If you're a business owner, maybe a little bit different, but this is essentially about you. So how does that look in terms of an example? We're going to go to Sue Allen, right? Sue Allen is working on her profile. She has improved a lot of things. She has a very approachable profile picture, but her background's a little bit busy, so maybe she needs to work on that a little bit. She's got a very nice headline photo because she is in the dry cleaning business, and she's got some really nice tailored, sparkling, clean clothes in her header image. She's got a customized header as well, and this is her about section. She starts off with an Amelia Earhart quote, and she says, Amelia Earhart once says, a single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and make new trees. As the owner of a small dry cleaning and tailoring business, I live by this motto. So that answers the first question, who you are. She says she's the owner of a small dry cleaning and tailoring business. She talks about what her mission is to get to know her clients, their needs, and providing top-notch service. So that is what sets her apart. Whether it's cleaning a favorite outfit, tailoring a wedding gown, or sewing a custom patch onto a backpack, I take pride in providing the best service in record time while always leading with kindness. So that speaks to about why her work matters. She speaks about the customer service and that she always leads with kindness. And it also speaks to the contribution or impact that she wants to have. So she's leading with kindness, and she starts off with that as well as ends off with that in terms of what she does. And the very last thing she says is that when I'm not running my small business, you can find me out exploring the world with my husband and 2 amazing kids. So that lets you relate to her on a personal level. So not only is she this business person, but she's also actually a real person with a husband and kids that likes to spend time with them. And in her industry, that is actually also very important. It's not just giving an extra snippet of information, but it's relating to her because she's going to work with real customers who have families as well. And they're bringing the dry cleaning of their families and their kids in. So that is a very nice summary that Sue Allen has. Sue Allen from Happy Dry Cleaning and Tailoring. Getting away from that, going on to step 4. Step 4 is adding your work experience. Now, as you know, this is very important because this is where you showcase your professional skills. So you are 12 times more likely to be viewed if you have more than one position listed. So make sure you list all your work experience, even if it's internships or part-time work or anything like that. Even if it's jobs that you did at the same time. So if you're doing dual jobs, add all of those. You have 5 times more connection requests when updating work experience. And you get 10 times more messages when updating your current work experience. So you might think, well, why is that important? It's an inbox message. It's not like it's benefiting me anyway. It is actually benefiting you because it might, it opens up the opportunity to deepen a relationship with somebody. So if somebody messages you, it might be somebody that you were too shy to approach. Maybe it's somebody very senior in your company if you work for a big company, or maybe it's somebody that you've admired for a long time that's in your network, but you never had the courage to reach out to them, especially if you're very introverted. But if that person messages you first, if I was working at company XYZ and then I got a promotion to position C at company XYZ, then somebody will inbox you and say, hey, congratulations on the new job, or congratulations on the promotion. And that opens up an opportunity to have a conversation, even if it's somebody that you've been wanting to have coffee with for a very long time. And they message you first, it makes it a lot easier to reach out and say, hey, don't you want to have coffee? I'd like to chat to you about some things. And then, yeah, that just opens up that opportunity. So how do we do this? Again, short, concise paragraphs in story format, in the first person again, and it should not read like a CV. It reads more like a story. You're making this interesting for the person. You're not just putting it in bullet points. You can use your CV for this, because remember I told you, make sure your CV is updated. You're going to use the information in your CV to transfer into the section of your LinkedIn profile, but it's not going to be a copy and paste. You might have to change it from the third person to the first person if your CV is in third person, but then just change up the way that you're writing it as well. Add industry keywords and talk about what you do. Discuss the key results that you drove and the impact. So it's not about what the company does. You're not hiding behind what your team does if you work in an amazing team. It's about what do you actually do. You know, what is your value? You can set the context up front if it's a less well-known company. So 1 to 2 sentences about what the company does, that's fine. Also, if it's a, okay, I'm going to get back to that later. Even if it is a well-known company, you might want to still have an introductory context. And you can also add rich media examples of your work. So that is photos, videos, presentations. That really increases your engagement, the engagement that other people will have with your profile, and it gives a very nice visually appealing representation of your work story. And yes, this is not always easy. You know, a lot of the times, or most of the time actually, the presentations that we do at work are not for public consumption. It's maybe industry stuff, it's company figures, it's projects, especially if you're in an industry that does work for clients, like if you're a management consultant, almost all of the work that we do are for clients, and you can't just go, even if it's work that you did, you can't just go and publicize that work because it's quite internal. But there might be, you can look out for areas where you might be able to do that. We're going to get to that now. So how does that look? I'm going to go to my own work experience here just to demonstrate this. So this is my profile, and I'm going to go to the work experience summary. So over here, which is my current job, which is the engagement manager at Pegasus. I've got the normal details here. What do I start off with? I start off with what the company does. Pegasus works on cutting edge developments and projects, and then I go on to the rest of it. If you're struggling to define what your company does, you can look at company documents, look at the mission, vision of the company. This I actually took exactly from a company document and just stuck it in here. Make sure it's relevant and make sure it's easy to read and that it fits into your profile. Then I go into what I actually do. So in this role, in the transport practice, I've been instrumental in rolling out non-motorized transport projects and bicycle distributions in priority municipalities in the Western Cape. And then I speak a bit more about the fact that I led the training stream for the Red Dot taxi service. And what is that? It's a groundbreaking initiative between the Western Cape government and the minibus taxi industry in the Western Cape in response to the COVID-19 crisis. So in this case, I'm speaking about the results, but results doesn't have to be numbers. It doesn't have to be, I increased the bottom line. It could be, I made a massive difference by helping people get to work during COVID-19 safely. So think about that in a way that, you know, it's not always the way you think of it. You will have results no matter what industry you work in and no matter what job you work in. Then I've got a rich media insert here, which is a video that was on YouTube. That was on the client's YouTube. And if you are in a video, so I'm in this video for like, I think 2 seconds. It's in the public domain. It's not a secret that the company is involved in the project. So something like that you can definitely share. It also gives a nice context in terms of people now. It makes it real in terms of people can see what kind of projects you're doing and what kind of work that you're doing, instead of just thinking like, oh, what do you actually do at work? Like, I know you work in transport, but like, you know, the transport system in Cape Town is still broken. So clearly you're not doing any work. And this kind of just brings it, it makes it real for people. And it gives them something that they can interact with in terms of a rich media piece. So going into just another one, let's go to this one. So which is another role that I had at Eskom. So I want to mention this one because, as you know, Eskom does not need a context. So you don't need to introduce what the company does here. But in a very big company like that, and governments, municipalities, if you work for the city of Cape Town, or if you work for any kind of government department as well, it might be relevant to introduce the department. So where does your department fit in terms of this massive company with thousands of people that work in it? So then I introduced the company. I said the role of energy trading department was to develop, analyze, and trading models, whatever. I'm not going to go into all the words there. And then I go into what I did. So what did I do? I worked on minimization of energy losses and compliance to regional reserve capacity targets. And then you go to what I managed, and then the results. What was my results? My role was instrumental in the curbing of revenue losses in the province by balancing the province's consumption and determining and investigating these losses. Then I go into more. I said during the time in this role, I developed an Excel-based tool to forecast future and annual energy consumption in the province, where previously it could not be done. And that was subsequently rolled out at national level because it wasn't available anywhere in the country. And that is something that I developed. So then I bring across what I actually brought into this role. It also speaks to my skills because it shows that I can actually work with Excel. And then it says I also presented and moderated industry conference and to share best practices and innovations in the field. And then over there, yes, it was also a role where my day-to-day work could not be shared with the public. But when I presented at an industry conference, that information becomes public knowledge because firstly, it's publicly presented. The presentations go onto the conference website and anybody can access it. So then clearly you can put it on your LinkedIn profile because now it's no longer a secret. So I hope that that's...
So just to add in a little caveat over there, the video content is also algorithmically searched or indexed by LinkedIn. So if you add in rich media, be it either video, images, what it would do is it would leave some form of digital footprint. That footprint is then searched. So organically, somebody may search for content, and that content is triggered in the video, and then in the Google search results, a LinkedIn profile of Rahima may appear, and this person may have been searching for something because that digital footprint was in that rich media.
Awesome. So there's some even more benefits of adding rich media that I was not even aware of. Thank you, Wasim. Next is adding volunteer experience, and we're at step 7 now. So people who have volunteer experience have 6 times more profile views than those without. And 40% of hiring managers view it as equivalent to formal work. And okay, I've done a lot of volunteer experience in my life, and I can see why hiring managers would view it as being equivalent to formal work. If it is somebody that has been involved in something like this, you would know that it is very difficult to get things done and to get results in projects that are run by volunteers. Firstly, there is never enough money because you are dependent on either donations or sponsorships, or you paying for things yourself. There's never enough people because you need to look at your network to get volunteers. Then you got to make sure the volunteers are good enough, and then you got to make sure that they show up when you need things done. And if they don't show up, there's actually nothing you can do. You can't go report them to a manager. You just either have to make another plan, or you have to step in and do it yourself. Whereas in a company, there's always, there's budgets. You need to motivate for budgets, but there's money to pay for things. There's resources and there's performance management. So volunteer experience can actually, if you get results, there is a lot that can show in terms of the skills that you have in your profile. So definitely add it. Having said that, it doesn't have to be as robust as formal work experience, but it's also an opportunity to highlight additional skills that you have that might not come through in the other work experience that you have. It can also explain gaps in your work experience. If you took some time off, either taking a gap year, changing industries, or maybe you took some time off to raise kids, and maybe you did some volunteer work in that time. You can add that as well. And it's also especially useful if you do not have a lot of work experience. So those people who have their graduation photos as their profile pictures, this is what you would want to add as well, because maybe you don't have any formal work experience. Maybe you only have volunteer experience because you're working in your first job. Then definitely you want to add everything that you have been involved with before. So going back to my profile, how does that look? There's a lot more options available in volunteer experience as well. Firstly, let me just get there. Firstly, you can reorder these. It doesn't have to be in chronological order like your work experience is. It doesn't have to be as robust as I said. So in this example, the first one, so I'm a mentor at the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation at the fellowship. So I go into, for example, what Alan Gray Orbis Fellowship Program is. So I've got one sentence there, and then I just explain what a mentor does. So here I don't have to really go into what makes me different. I really am very passionate about mentorship. I'm always involved in some kind of mentorship program, and it makes a massive difference. But you're making a difference to somebody's life. You're not really, a mentor is quite a generic role. So what one mentor does in terms of what another one does, it's pretty much the same. So you don't have to go into this is what I did and this is how I'm amazing. You just speak about this is what the role does. What I said in terms of chronological order, like you see here, I can move that down if I want to. If I want to put the Africa Code Week thing at the top, I can do that, whereas you can't do that with work experience. So I'm just going to move that back because I do want that. Okay, I'm not going to spend time on this, but yeah, move that there. Then this one is a little bit different, which is the South Africa Code Week, a project which I am extremely passionate about. I've been doing it for a couple of years. And this is one where I actually went into a little bit more detail, actually a lot of detail, and I treated it as if it was a formal job in terms of what I put on LinkedIn. And the reason for this is that it showcases skills that do not come through in my formal work experience. Things like project management, things like leadership, like leading a lot of streams at the same time and actually holding a massive project up and getting results as well. So I speak about what Africa Code Week is. I go into, it aims to teach the skill of coding to young people. I speak about what I did, and I say since 2016, I've led various NPO projects. I speak about what it is and what the success of the programs have come from. exceptionally dedicated project teams, and strong implementation partnerships such as local schools and the education department. So these showcasing that you're able to work with a lot of different entities. And then I've got the results in bullet form, as you can see there. So if somebody's scanning my profile, they can quickly just see them. They don't have to look for it in paragraphs. So I speak about 2016, 2017, 2019, and then I say in all 3 years, more than 50% of participants reached were female. So you might not have it like that. You might have it more like the first one, and that's fine. It can even be a lot shorter than that. In terms of the way I laid it out as well, as you can see here at the bottom, I've got 2 roles here where I was the editor of the Mentor tablet, and I was also on the committee of the Civic Association. So the Civic Association I did quite recently, I mean, up to as recently as 2 years ago, whereas the editor of the Mentor tablet was many, many years ago, like, what, 9 years ago. But the reason I put it this way was to speak about that visual appeal that I spoke about earlier. So the Civic Association has like a little gray block that looks like a building there. Mensa is actually on LinkedIn. So they have an icon, they've got like the profile icon. So it looks nicer, and they're going to show like the first couple of projects, or the first couple of experiences first. So I want them to see the ones that look nice first, and also that showcases the skills that I want to showcase. And then afterwards they can see the rest. So this is also something that you can use to enhance your profile, especially if you don't have those things in your formal work experience. Just a nice place to add it. Okay, I'm just aware of time, so I'm going to try and go a little bit faster through these. So step 8 is adding skills and getting endorsed. So members with 5 or more skills listed are discovered 27 times more in searches and receive 17 times more profile views. You can add up to 50 skills to your profile. And skills is also very important because obviously these are the things that that people are looking for. They want to know, what skills do you have? So you want to include a mix of high level and niche skills, as well as hard and soft skills. So you don't just want to include technical stuff. You also want to include some of the people stuff, like maybe client management or negotiation skills and things like that. Those are the softer skills, but they're very, very important in business. So LinkedIn will show you the 3 most endorsed skills pinned to your profile by default, but these can actually be adjusted, and I'm going to show you now. And there's something that you can consider doing, which is LinkedIn assessments to prove competence. So as you can see here below, I did a LinkedIn assessment on Excel. So this is a test that LinkedIn gives you. It's timed. It is open book, of course, but it is, you need to, yes, you can, for example, if you're doing the Excel one, you can consult Excel and you can like do the things that they're asking you to do quickly, but before you answer the question, but you need to know where to find those things. So if you are not actually proficient at Excel, it's not going to, you're going to run out of time before you get the answers. You're not going to have time to like Google, for example. So you can do this with a lot of skills. There's things like MATLAB, there's R, there's all the Office applications, there's Adobe, but it gives a nice, if it's something that you're good at, I recommend you do it because it gives you a LinkedIn, an indication that you did the test on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is actually saying you're great at it. So it's not just you saying, but I can do it, because you know sometimes people say they're good at something and they're actually not. But if you pass this test, you need to pass it above the 70th percentile. Then it will show like that on your profile. Don't worry if you don't pass it. It's not going to tell people that you failed. It's just not going to show anything. but you can retake the test within 90 days again. And then if you pass then it will be added to your profile. If you do a test on something that you don't have added as a skill, like I did on PowerPoint here at the bottom, it will ask you, it will tell you, you do not have PowerPoint added, do you want to add it? And then you get the badge as well. And then you can say add skill, or you don't have to do it. So
Rahima, while you bring up the how you adjust, I just would like to add that if anybody's seen a job and the job says that you are on the 10th percentile or the 25th percentile or the 50% percentile of that particular job, how LinkedIn actually ranks you towards that job, it takes the skills, it takes your about section, it takes your headline and your job description, and it then takes that information and it matches it to the job description, which is being, let's say, advertised. And it will then algorithmically work out that you are in the X percentile relevant to that particular job. So having, let's say, skill sets, for example, like photography, but you are in finance, would rank you in photography as opposed to finance. So make sure that those skill sets, although you may have a skill set which you are competent on, be cognizant of the fact that when LinkedIn matches you to jobs, it takes that skill set in let's say, consideration.
And that is exactly why you want to do what I'm going to show you next, is that LinkedIn shows you the top 3 endorsed skills pinned to your profile, as I said. But sometimes you want to reorder that. You don't have to have those pinned. So the ones that I had pinned before I changed it was energy, project planning, and power systems. And as you would have known by now, I spent a good many years, a decade of my life in energy. In the power systems industry. So a lot of my endorsements are on those skills. But now that I've moved into management consulting, those skills are not actually relevant to me at the moment. At least I want to move back into that industry. So I want other things to rather show. I want transport related things to show. And I want things like Excel and project management to show. So I can just click on the pin, on the blue pin, and to unpin it. And then other skills that I want to pin to my profile, I'll click that pin and it will be moved up. And then everything will still be visible, but your top 3 skills will be highlighted and you can control what those top 3 skills are, or at least the skills that are pinned to your profile that people see immediately. Then step 8 is to, sorry, we are still on step 8, but something extra that you can consider is consider upskilling yourself through LinkedIn Learning certifications. So this is something that you can do. It is courses that you can take on LinkedIn. These courses range from anywhere from 2 minutes up to something that's going to take you a couple of weeks to do. And it is a paid product, but if you do sign up, you get 1 month of free unlimited access to courses. So if you are in a situation where you're not that busy at work at the moment because of lockdown, or maybe you've been laid off because of lockdown, you want to upskill yourself, or if you have a little bit of more time, you can actually just sign up for LinkedIn Learning and do as many courses as you possibly can within that 1 month. Firstly, you will get the skill and you will also be able to add it to your LinkedIn profile as a certification. Then I'm going to move into step 9, which is requesting a recommendation. Now, recommendations are nice because it helps to build credibility and validate your skills. Because again, it's not just you saying you're good at something, it's somebody else actually validating that they've worked with you and they would like to recommend you. And this is good because people are often quite skeptical. You know, you haven't worked with a person before, and then they read something that somebody else has said about you, and that might be the very thing that they're struggling with in terms of other people. So if they've worked with other people, that really just for example, builders that are always messy. I mean, I know that in the building industry, builders do not have a reputation for really, you know, working well. And my dad is a builder. Okay, he's not on LinkedIn. He's like, I mean, they're in a different generation. But he used to have a lot of referrals when he was still working because of the way he worked and the fact that he was a pleasure to deal with. Now, in LinkedIn, that would come across as people referring you. So he got a lot of referrals for people just telling other people, and he never really needed to advertise because he just like used to get work on referrals. And in LinkedIn, recommendations come there. So they do not usually come organically, but you can request a recommendation. You can ask somebody to write a recommendation for you. And you can even tell them what they should focus on in the recommendation. So tell them that you want them to focus on the fact that you always have great client relationships, or that you're really good at project management, or whatever it is that you want them to focus on. Also, it makes it much easier for them to write the recommendation because they know exactly what you want from it. And it's not them having to think up, oh, what am I going to say about this person? There's so much to say, or they can't think of something. So yeah, go out and if there is somebody, especially people that really rave about your work, and ask them to write a recommendation for you. Step 10 is a little bit different to the others because the others was all about optimizing your profile. But you can have the most optimized profile, but if you don't engage, then LinkedIn is also not going to show your stuff. Right now, what is engagement? Engagement can be anything from comments to likes to any other reactions on posts to sharing posts to posting updates, sharing relevant content, and even writing articles. So the reason this is important is that alongside relevance, the other metric that LinkedIn really prioritizes in displaying content is the likelihood of engagement. So if you, and Wasim spoke a little bit about this earlier, if the post that you are writing or something that you're sharing is likely to cause a lot of engagement, they will show it to more people. It also increases your reach because the algorithm rewards those who actively participate. So if you participate, then your engagement will automatically increase. And we're going to get to how that looks just now as well. But more reach means more profile views, means more connection requests, which in turn eventually leads to higher credibility. And this doesn't have to be complicated. Don't think that, oh, you need to write articles, you need to get like the perfect picture to post. This is not Instagram. You don't have to have a very insightful link. If you just want to share something short in text only, it's actually proven that text only posts statistically have the highest engagement rates on LinkedIn. So people like things that they can read very quickly and that they don't have to go off the platform. And LinkedIn also wants you to stay on the platform as long as possible. So they would also reward things where people don't have to leave the platform. So if you're writing an article or a blog and it's on Pulse, which is a LinkedIn product, I mean a free product, it's basically the LinkedIn blog, they are more likely to reward your post by showing it to more people and increasing your reach. And also engaging with content shows the algorithm what you like, so it will show you more of it. So if you're just seeing things and you're never engaging, you're never liking anything, you're never commenting on people's things, but you actually enjoy what you read, LinkedIn can't get into your brain. They can only get into your brain if you actually you turn that into action. So give someone a like even sometimes now and then. If you like something, if you enjoy what you read in terms of a post, then give them a like or put a comment or something.
So hi, Rahima. I just want to interject here. We obviously have a lot of people in the comment section mentioning time. So Rahima doesn't have many slides to go. Just 1 or 2 left, so please bear with us.
Yes, I'm going to try and finish quite quickly. This one is an actual post that I posted about 3 weeks ago. The original post was something that my sister posted about when she passed her master's, and she was saying that she just got her master's, and I shared that post because I was really, really proud of her. The post got 321 reactions and 40 comments. But the interesting thing is that it got 8,632 views. And this is a few days ago, so it's possibly even more by now. And I just want to point out here that I have less than 600 connections, first degree connections. So these are not just my connections. What LinkedIn actually does is that it will show your posts to every person in every person's timeline that actually reacted to it, that liked it, that commented it. So that actually increases your reach so much that this post, for example, got 8,632 views when my network's actually not that big at all. It's just because of the way the algorithm works. And I didn't do this to post, to get so many views, because I didn't know it was going to be. But just to mention that engagement is really, really important. Wasim, I don't know if you want to say anything on this before I move on engagement, because this is really Wasim's speciality as well. Not, okay. I'll move on swiftly. Then I know this is something that a lot of you are here for, LinkedIn for job seekers. I'm not going to go very much into detail about this, but I'm going to cover just 2 situations. And the one is if you are employed and you don't want your network to know you're looking. It's a little bit awkward, if you're working at a company and you're connected to all these people at this company and you are publicizing that you are looking for work. Nobody wants to do that. So how can you actually, there's a way to do it on LinkedIn without having to jeopardize your position at work. So you can indicate to recruiters that you open your opportunities without revealing this to your network, because LinkedIn has a recruitment product that recruiters pay for. So it's not to be found by your network, but it's actually to be found out by recruiters that are using this product. So this indication will show up at the top of your profile to recruiters only and not to your usual connections. And it will also not be shown to recruiters from the organization at which you currently work. So on your profile, you can go to show recruiters you open, and then it opens up a dialog box like this. And then you choose the bottom one that says share with recruiters only. And you can add the type of positions that you want as well. So then it won't be shown to your current network at all. If you are unemployed, of course, you want everybody to know that you're looking, so you can actually just propagate it to everyone. Then you use the top option, which is share with all LinkedIn members. It also, this is a new feature that LinkedIn opened up for during COVID-19, is that it adds the badge to your profile picture as well. So will follow you as well. If you have this activated, will follow you all over LinkedIn, and it will show people that you are open to work. It will add the photo frame. In this case, your compelling headline really is key. I want to stress, and I have not underlined anything in this entire slide deck except for this. Do not use the word unemployed in your headline. Employers are not looking for your employment status. They're looking for value. So rather use industry keywords. Your headline is the bait. The aim is to get clicked on, and then you can always explain in the summary that you're looking for work. Not a long-winded explanation, just a one-liner. So bad headlines when seeking employment would be something like seeking new opportunities, or unemployed at looking for my next job. It sounds really silly, and it's a really bad thing to say as well. Rather say something like graphic designer ready to create your next profitable marketing campaign. If you're a graphic designer, that kind of shows where you're saying ready to create. It gives an indication that you are ready right now, but you're not saying outright that you are unemployed. Or if you are a coder, you might say something like coding the future of UX, connecting machine learning to human experience. That entire line is pretty much a list of industry keywords for coders. And I'm not going to go into that, but it's basically, I'm going to answer that question at the bottom for you. Notice anything peculiar about the good headlines? There's actually no difference to what I covered in the headline section. It's exactly the same as that. Then just some bonus tips. Remember to add education, accomplishments, which would be publications, awards, languages. Remember to add all languages, even if you can speak it broken, because LinkedIn has specific proficiency levels for languages. So you can always add it as an elementary proficiency instead of like a native proficiency, like you would do with, like I would do with English, for example. Remember to add featured media. So if you were in an article, if you wrote something, if you maybe are a professional that deals with portfolios, this is where you would put your portfolio. And then always update your profile as your career progresses. Don't have your latest job being something you did 2 years ago and you no longer do. Make sure that it's always current. And then edit your custom URL. So Sue Allen has not edited her custom URL. Her URL is Sue Allen 166, a bunch of lines, a bunch of numbers and letters. Don't do that. This is something you can do right now after this call. It is a first come, first serve option on LinkedIn. You can change your custom URL to something customized. So I have mine as my first name because I did this as soon as this feature came out a few years ago. I went and I grabbed my first name. If your first name is not available, you can make it your first name and your surname, your initial and your surname. It doesn't matter, but make it something memorable. Rahima Kenny 1257AB9 is not memorable. This is something you might want to put, for example, on your CV. So on your hard copy CV, yes, a lot of times you're sending it via email and it's clickable, but sometimes people print it out and they want to type your LinkedIn profile into their browser. And you don't want it to be something that's going to confuse them. You want it to be something that's short, recognizable, and that actually it showcases you. And that is the end of it. I'm sorry that I took the entire 90 minutes, pretty much. But I hope it is valuable. Vince Lombardi said that perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. So chase perfection in your LinkedIn profile. You're never going to get there. I mean, I was still changing my LinkedIn profile up to yesterday because I just kept making tweaks and tweaks to it and added things. But you can make it really excellent. Thank you very much, and I hope this was very useful.
Thank you so much, Rahima. It was quite a lot of information. Thank you, everybody, for attending and spending so much time. For any of the participants that do want to stay on past the 90 minutes and have some questions for us, we'll unmute and you'll be able to, let's say, get those questions answered. But I'm just going to give Rahima a couple of the questions that was asked. So there was a question about the headline, which you answered that there's a character limit. And then another question said, the summary, would you use the suggested summary that LinkedIn offers, or would you optimize that?
Okay. Just before I go to answer the questions, I just want to mention to everyone that has time restrictions and wants to leave, we will, if there are any questions unanswered, we will put it in a FAQ pack and we will get this recording to you guys as soon as we possibly can. So on the character limit for the headline is 120, but just make sure you put whatever you want people to see immediately, put that first. Because LinkedIn actually cuts it off after, they only show the first line in your comments. So if it's something that you want people to see, you can put that first, but the character limit is 120 characters.
Great.
The about section.
Yeah. I think I'll move on to the next question just so that we can get in as much as possible. Can you limit your updates to certain people?
I think you can, but can I get back to the group on that? I'm just going to check on it because I'm not too sure. But I believe you can, yes, limit it to, for example, just your first degree connections or first and secondary connections, but you cannot limit it to like specific people unless the people are in a group.
Okay,
so
great.
You can limit it according to the type of connection.
Great.
And just on the summary, I haven't seen LinkedIn suggested summary, but I wouldn't recommend that you use that because LinkedIn won't know unless the rest of your profile is really customized. They wouldn't be able to give that insight into you that you would be able to put in your own summary.
Great. Okay, so there's a couple of questions coming through over here. One of the questions that has been asked is, do I create two profiles for a job and let's say a personal profile? Which a question was actually asked to us earlier in the day via email by Sandra. So we'll answer that question. I'll interject over there. And just another question that I'll put in just so that you have it in mind. What advantage does one have when you apply for a job early, or does it wait till the end of the advert period to shortlist? So let me answer, Rahima, if I can, the question about a business profile and a personal profile, if I may.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so the terminology is quite important. A profile and a page is actually two completely different things. A profile is your personal profile, which if you look at the top, it will say, if you want to, let's say, connect with someone, it will give you the connect icon and you can connect with someone. A page is where you have followers. So that would be the difference between what a page is and a profile. A profile, you connect with a person on an individual basis. A page is an organizational overview, and then therefore you would have followers. So your engagement and how the feed is generated for both the viewer and the administrator would be different. Would you want to separate the two, be it a profile and a page? Unless your personal brand is your business, you would separate the two. You would have an organization versus a personal profile. How do you do that? It's a fairly simple process. What I'll do is I will just share my screen quickly so that I can show you how that is done.
Okay, I will stop sharing then, and then you can share.
So this is my profile. Can you see it, Rahim?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So if you look over here, you'll see that my icon is over there, and that is my page. If you go slightly down, you'll see that I've got companies that I run. And it will show that this is a company versus a personal profile. So how do I set up a company? It's fairly easy. You go to the option which says work. You press the drop-down tab over. You press the drop-down tab over there, and you'll see that it actually says create a company page. Once I click that company page, I'll then be able to manage a company from my personal profile. You can only create a company page if you have a personal profile. You can't just create a company profile. you'd have to have a personal profile and then create the company page. But it's fairly easy. It doesn't show that there's a link between the two, and you'll be able to manage it directly from your personal page by simply going into your personal section, clicking on the company section, and what will happen is the company's menu will then populate and you'd be able to create content or add content from there. Okay, I hope that answers that question. And I'll stop sharing over there, Rahima.
Okay, great. So I will get to the other question, which was, is there any advantage to applying early, or does LinkedIn wait until the job posting has closed? So the answer to that is no, it does not. There is actually no advantage to applying early, except that you know you're not going to miss the closing date. But I'd rather that you take the time to to make sure that your profile is optimized. It doesn't have to be optimized for that position, because your profile should actually be optimized for any position. But if there are specific things that they ask for in the job posting, that would be a very nice way to pick up which keywords you need to have in your profile. So if it says something like, I'm looking for, the job posting looks for project management, and you have some project management, but you didn't mention it in your profile, I would cross-check those and then just make sure whatever they're asking for is in your profile somewhere. Even if it's not in your work experience, it might be in your about section or something to that effect. So they don't do shortlisting until the posting has closed, but just do make sure that by doing that, you do not miss the closing date. So make sure that you take note of when the closing date is and that you make your submission before that is closed. But otherwise, you can wait.
So what I'll do is I'll add just a little bit on that one, having been on the back end of being a recruiter via LinkedIn. So there's two parts to it, theoretically. You would have the machine, which would be a filter option. So for example, say I posted a job and I added in particular job descriptions, and there could have been must-haves, and that must-haves could either be academic or skill set. I would then insert by filter, what are those skill set must-haves? I'll click a button and it would eliminate everybody that is not applicable. And that could be as simple as language. Let's say I posted a job and the job required a particular language, and on your job profile, you've not listed that language. Automatically it eliminates that profile. And then therefore you would obviously not qualify, let's say, for that particular job. So bringing that back to what Rahima mentioned in the sense of having a generalistic, let's say, LinkedIn profile, at times, if you would like, and there's, let's say, a job that you're really gunning for and you want to rank higher per se, what you can do is go to the job description, see exactly what skill sets was required, go through the job description, and then update your LinkedIn profile. What that would do is it algorithmically then just ranks your particular LinkedIn higher, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the recruiter will pick up that, let's say, profile for whatever reason.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, thanks for that, Wasim. For example, if we're getting back to my project management example, if, for example, the posting asks for a skill of Gantt charts, just as an example. Now, if you've worked with Microsoft Project, for example, you'll know that Microsoft Project is pretty much Gantt charts, and you might have a skill listed as Microsoft Project, but you don't mention Gantt charts anywhere in your profile. You maybe want to add Gantt charts so that the search engine would pick up that. Because remember, it's not a human being to think, but oh, Microsoft Project is equivalent to Gantt charts. You want to add those words in that will be picked up and that will make you rank higher.
Yep. So another question that was asked is, and this speaks to both engagement and reach, is what is first, second, and third contacts on LinkedIn? So a first contact is someone that I am directly connected to, as in I sent a connection or they sent a connection, and we are now first contacts. A second contact is a contact of a first contact. So for example, I'm connected to Rahima, and Rahima is connected to someone, and Rahima posted, and that person liked her content. I'll then look at her feed because I'm her first contact, and I'll see second contact on that person that, let's say, commented on her feed. So therefore it is her direct contact. And then a third contact is neither connected to both me and Rahima as a first or second contact, but by interest and through algorithmic, let's say, influence of LinkedIn, content was shared as per the post that Rahima showed, which had masters and education and UCT probably. A UCT connection may have then seen it because the word UCT was added into the post, and then therefore they engaged on the comment, and then I would see, oh, that's a third contact. We neither not connected. Is it important? I would say less so that it's first, second, or third. What you need to be cognizant of, and Rahima mentioned, is you want as much reach as possible. How do you garner reach? You garner reach by being active. And the reason why you want to be active is that LinkedIn wants you to be active. LinkedIn wants thought leaders within industry, and you a thought leader in your own right, to generate content. Why is generating content important? Generating content is important because it means that the person who's then, let's say, interested in a particular industry or skill set would find this article or find that post interesting, and then therefore they would spend longer time on the platform. So when we say engage, it is probably one of the biggest influences to your reach by default of the algorithm, and other people will then see that you're a thought leader within, let's say, a particular industry, and they would like to connect, and then therefore your platform reaches increases by default.
Great. I see a question there about where do you access LinkedIn Learning, and I'm quickly just going to share my screen and point it out. Just wait. So if you go to the top there where it says work, it's right to the right of where your profile picture is and where it says me. If you click on that, it will show up a whole lot of options there, and learning is the first one. So you can just click on that. Or you can just use the search and type in over there. You can type in LinkedIn Learning, and it will show up.
Great. Another question that was asked was, is there an advantage to having the premium LinkedIn versus not having the premium LinkedIn? So the premium LinkedIn gives you it gives you slightly more functions than, let's say, just having a normal account. That functions could possibly be via connection, be it, i.e. I can send a direct mail to someone if I have a premium account and not be a connection of that individual. And it also allows me to see analytics and insights of job postings. So if what I'll do is I'll just share my screen quickly, Rahima.
Sure.
Right. So let's just do something random. So as you can see, I've got a premium account of the year, and I can then see insights of job postings. I can see that 363 individuals applied for this particular job, and of that 363, I'm in the top 25 percentile if I were to apply for that job. So let's say I open that. It then highlights how I match comparatively in the sense of what I inserted in my skills versus the skills that obviously they requested. I can optimize my LinkedIn profile if I really want to, let's say, apply for this job. I can just add in those skill sets, swap out the 50 that I currently have, and just add those in, and it would then rank me higher than the top 25 percentile. If I go further down, it gives me a bit, it gives me slightly, let's say, other insights. So, for example, it shows academically, comparatively to, let's say, those individuals where I rank. It shows me the top skills versus the top skills that were requested. It shows me even who and in what areas they posted. You've got to make a decision. Is this relevant to you or is it not relevant to you? From a personal perspective, I think just having the slightest edge on LinkedIn is better. And these paid memberships, you can cancel at any time. So if you looked at Rahima's account, it says that try 1 month for free. That's how I actually started, let's say, using the paid membership. I just tried it for 1 month, and then I found some of the analytics to be interesting and useful for myself, and then I just carried on.
Yeah, that's how they reel you in with the 1 month free.
Indeed. So I think that was all of the questions, unless there was a couple that I missed, but I think you've answered those questions in the presentation.
There was another one, which I can't see at the moment now. Okay, would you advise someone with two?
Yes.
Okay, would you advise someone with 2 or more experience in terms of your headline, once a marketer, now a machine operator? So yes, you can certainly add that in, although if you were once a marketer and you have no inclination to be found for your marketing skills right now, then I don't see any reason to add it to your headline. You certainly do need to, you should add it to your about section and definitely in your work experience summary. But if you are not, if you're not looking to be found for that now, then no, you just add what you currently want to be found for. But if you do want to be found for that, you can do what I did in my headline, which was, you can see after I had the part about connecting marginalized communities to opportunity, I just had I'm not sure what to call that horizontal line, vertical line. And then I had after that, best-selling co-author and speaker. So you can add more than one to that section, as long as it fits into the 120 characters.
Yep. So to add to that, Rahima, in the first few slides, she mentioned brand and she mentioned persona. So what a brand and what a persona is, a persona, let's say more so, is a framework, or let's say a blueprint of your identity that you want to present to someone. So if we're thinking from a recruiter perspective, is okay, so I've created a job description. How does that job description match to your persona? Does your persona match it from an academic perspective, a brand perspective, a personality perspective, and therefore is there not only a job fit, but is there an organizational fit? So certain organizations would have particular brand elements and culture within that organization that they would like to align to the individual that they employ. And that has more of a softer aspect to it than a hard, fact, quantifiable academic, let's say, perspective. It's both myself and Rahima's opinion that you add in the softer element within your LinkedIn profile, because we've now transitioned out of the way traditional recruiting is being done and interviewing is being done, that we'd like as recruiters or companies to see who you are, both as an individual and academically and from a capacity perspective, so that there's an organizational fit to the individual.
Great, thanks. I think that was all the questions.
Yep.
Yeah, we still have quite a few people with us. Thank you very much for staying with us and for giving of your time. I know I really appreciate people giving me time, because I know someone's attention is one of the greatest things they can give you. And we don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And I'd just like to thank Harvey and her AV team as well from Mozilla. When I asked if I can use the Mozilla Zoom platform, it was Harvey immediately said yes. I've been involved with the Tech Speaker program since 2017, and Mozilla is really, they really just have a really great attitude to developing the open web.